MTG Scoundrels, it's in the cardboard. Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have Dimir Reanimator versus Affinity. Looks like Affinity starting off with a Razortide Bridge, passing the turn. Fetch land and pass for the Reanimator player. Looks like a Bloodstained Mire. Darksteel Citadel. Into a Mishra's Bauble. Into an Ornithopter. There's an Emery Lurker of the lock. Milling 4. Looks like there's a Shadow Spear, a Patchwork Automaton in there. Cracking the Bauble. Oh, that's a Psychic Frog on top. Psychic Frog, a good tool for Reanimator shells, as Legacy has proven. However, it looks like, being that the Reanimator player did not know what was on top, they're going to go ahead and fetch here. Find themselves a Surveil land. Another great tool for these decks. Tossing the land in the bin. Both players drawing. Polluted Delta in passing. There's an Urza Saga. Emery, casting the Mishra's Bauble from the graveyard. And there is a Thought Monitor. Drawing 2 cards. And there is another Mishra's Bauble and a Memnite. All of a sudden there are a lot of game pieces. Cracking the Bauble. Cracking the Bauble. Passing the turn here on end step. Going to 18. Probably finding another land here, specifically a Surveil land. No, finding an island. That'll work as well. And there's a Tainted Indulgence. Discarding a card to the Tainted Indulgence. Untapping and drawing. Island for turn. There's the Psychic Frog. And passing. Remember your Mishra's Bauble triggers, friends. The opponent here being nice enough to let him draw it. But remember your Mishra's Bauble triggers. There's a Portable Hole. That is going to get force and negation, exiling the portable hull. Affinity player not realizing that just yet. There's an ornithopter. And there is a springleaf drum. Casting the Mishra's Bauble off the emery. A portable hull, of course, needs to be exiled, as being pointed out here. Bobbling, there's a land on top, looks like. Drawing in the upkeep. There's a land for turn. And there is an Oculus. One of the new cards from Duskmourn. Exiling 6 cards from the bin. End step. Make a construct. Upkeep. Make a dude. Specifically manifesting dread, not just making a dude. Hey, there's even a token for it. Alright. Making a dude in response to the trigger of the Urza's Saga. Urza's Saga will get sacked. What to find, what to find. Lava Spur Boots, not a bad option here. Ah, finds the Pithing Needle to turn off the Psychic Frog. Interesting choice, but considering what could be ran in a Reanimator list, that's not the worst thing in the world. Turn off their free discard outlet. Also just keeps the Psychic Frog from being too big and flying over the top. Well, that's quite the board state. There's an Urza Saga. Emery is targeting the Shadow Spear. Moving to cast the Shadow Spear here. Looks like that's going to be Force of Negation. That'll exile the Shadow Spear. Getting in with a big construct. Frog going to get in front of it. Passing the turn. End step, going to crack the Misty Rainforest. Finding a Surveil land. Undercity sewers, it looks like. Still a lot to work with. Oculus is going to keep making dudes. That land's going to get surveilled into the bin. But the Reanimator player really staring down quite the board state. If they had an option to dump an Archon and persist it out, they would have already more than likely. Alright, getting in with the Manifest token and the Oculus. Ornithopter going to get in front of the Abhorrent Oculus. Memnite going to get in front of the token. Just trying to avoid some shenanigans, it looks like. Those guys still 9/9s. And the Oculus is going to manifest Dread here. Razortide Bridge coming in. That'll make the Constructs 10/10s. Deciding what to do here. Looks like going to attack in with both tokens and the Thought Monitor. Alright. Odawara going to deal with one of the tokens. And the other one will get blocked. So 2 damage coming in. Emery getting activated. Casting the Ornithopter from the bin, passing the turn. There is a Psychic Frog. Now it's just a matter of, will the Reanimator player attack in with Oculus again? Yep, Oculus getting in. Ornithopter going to chump. End step, make a dude. And untap. Reanimator player here manifesting Dread. Putting an Archon into the bin. That's what they want to see. If that's a persist, that's a pretty good hit. At least a persistent hand, anyway. Trigger on the stack, making a 3rd dude. So we got 2 without Summoning Sickness and 1 with. Could find a relic here, maybe a Soul Guide Lantern. Oh, finding the Relic of Progenitus. Not bad. That'll at least be a deterrent for that Archon. Another Razortide Bridge. "13 artifacts on the board currently. Activating Emery. Casting a Mishra's Bauble. That'll be 14 on the board. 2 constructs. Rumbling in. Ooh, there's the persist, unfortunately. And the psychic frog is going to block as well. And passing the turn. Tapping 2. Alright, here's a Tainted Indulgence. Drawing 2 cards. And it looks like scooping it up from there. Game 1 going to Affinity over Dimir Reanimator. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Reanimator and Affinity, definitely an interesting contrast to styles here. And this does look like a Dimir Reanimator list that's more focused on, in fact, the reanimating. Not just reanimating Oculus, but having access to Archon. A staple in most Reanimator lists at this point, especially in Legacy. Reanimator probably bringing in some amount of artifact hate. Though could just be bringing in a certain amount of removal. Affinity here has a few different options. Already showing off one of those options. Ghost Fire Vacuum, I believe that's called. Anyway. One of the new graveyard hate pieces from Duskmourn. Why not, considering you're going up against Oculus? A fellow Duskmourn card. But the Affinity list really just wants to focus on riding the back of Urza's Saga. And if not Urza's Saga, Kappa Cannoneer, getting that out as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it's really just spinning its wheels. And as we saw in Game 1, Reanimator does have a decent amount of counterplay. They just have to be able to draw what they need to draw. Now, if you're interested in tokens, definitely check out our friend Arcane Artistry, who happens to be playing in this video, as you see there. Makes wonderful clue, treasure, and food tokens in the stained glass style. Represented by the playmat there. Definitely bug them on their Etsy link if you want to possibly get one of those playmats. But specifically go to their Etsy link to check out their tokens. And I know for a fact that Arcane Artistry is in fact coming out with more tokens here in the future. So definitely take a look at that. And we are sponsored, of course, by Warden Games, hosts of our Magic events. A wonderful place to storm out. Check the description below for their TCG player as well as their home link to their website. So definitely give that a look. And if you're interested in some art for your channel, or just looking for art for Christmas presents and other things, check out our friend Sean Gerard. Did the artwork for our channel. Wonderful individual. Their email in the description. They're currently open to new projects. So definitely check that out. Moving into game number 2 here. In some ways, it's a matter of
who goes faster? Reanimator will be on the play. Looks like deciding to put a couple extra cards in here based on the matchup. Reanimator also probably bringing in a certain amount of consign to memories. There's enough colorless things to counter from the affinity list. And triggers. Though you can't really counter that Kappa Cannoneer very well. Just need hard counterspell at the right times. Alright, presenting decks. Alright, both keeping 7, starting off with a Bloodstained Mire and passing. Seachrome Coast. Mishra's Bauble, Mishra's Bauble. Memnite, Memnite. Thoughtcast. For those of you old enough to remember when Mox Opal was in the Affinity list, let's just be thankful it sure is not now. Thanks to the bannings a few years back. Bloodstained Mire has been cracked here. Finding a Watery Grave. And consider. Real question is, will it get binned? Nope. Gonna go ahead and keep it on top and draw it. Untap. Draw for turn. I do see a persistent hand there. Alright, there's the backside of a Sink into Stupor. That'll bring us to 14 to 20. And passing the turn. Bauble's not being cracked here. There's a Spire of Industry. Into a Kappa Cannoneer. There sure is a whole lot of text on that card. Oh, and there's a consign in hand, and it's just not going to be able to do it. Kappa will enter with a +1/+1 counter and pass. There is a Tainted Indulgence. In this case, the discard, though, is a feature, not a flaw. Ooh, getting rid of the persist. That's not a good sign. Or there's a second one in hand. polluted delta into a psychic frog and passing the turn. And there is a thought monitor. Trigger. Drawing 2 cards. Blinkmoth Nexus. Getting in with the kappa. Taking 6. That'll bring us to 8 to 20. Passing the turn. Kappa getting unblockable after an artifact comes into play is just wild. Polluted delta on end step, gonna get cracked. Going to 7. Finding an island. End step, consider. Putting a Harbinger of the Seas into the bin. Untapping, drawing. Lethal on board for the Affinity player, as it currently stands. There's a Bloodstained Mire. End step, cracking Bauble. Persist on top. Bauble, looking at top card there. Untapping. Upkeep, draw 2. Draw for turn. There's an Ornithopter that'll trigger the kappa. That's lethal on board. Kappa Cannoneer, one hell of a card. There's a Soulless Jailer. One more counter for Kappa. Nope, that'll get consigned. Still lethal on board. Tacking in. Gets unblockable off the Ornithopter. And that'll do it. Game, set, match going to Affinity over Dimir Reanimator. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. And we will see you all next week.